From our memories of early school history comes the name of this great Spanish explorer, Balboa, the man who discovered and claimed possession of the fortress, now known as Las Bóvedas, was the Spaniards' defense against the English pirates of those far-off days. Now we approach Old Panama, founded more than 400 years ago in the New World, discovered only a few years previously by Christopher Columbus. In its day, when Panama was an important Spanish colony, this was a great cathedral, probably the finest in the Western Hemisphere. Today, the Republic of Panama is in the mainstream of 20th century existence. By sea and air, a focal point of trans-ocean commerce and the great crossroads of the Western world. We are among the increasing thousands of tourists arriving in one of the most modern airports in Latin America. Situated at Tocumen, just a few miles out of Panama City, it is the terminal for major carriers to and from all the Americas. The original city of Panama was destroyed by Morgan the English pirate in 1671. 2 years later, and 6 miles away, a new city was founded that became the nation's capital. Here is how it looks to us, the tourists of today. A thriving metropolis with fashionable shops, fine buildings, and a flow of visitors that gives it a distinctly international flavor. One of the most impressive of the public buildings is the President's Palace, an outstanding reminder of Panama's heritage. Although there is complete freedom of religion, Panama is predominantly Catholic. This cathedral, of historic as well as ecclesiastical interest, dates back to the 1600s. Here is an example of more modern church architecture, Our Lady of Mount Carmel in Panama City. This magnificent golden altar once graced the Cathedral of Old Panama. It is now part of the Church of San Jose, in the heart of modern Panama City. But as we explore this cosmopolitan city, we find the past giving way more and more to the needs and innovations of the present. Let's take a leisurely tour of today's Panama City. We see around us a mode of life in art, science, education, and commerce, housed in beautiful buildings of contemporary design. What, you may ask, is the status of the social sciences in this country? Here is your answer in terms of modern medicine as exemplified by this great hospital. This is but one of many imposing monuments to progressive thinking in the field of public health. Love of country and pride in its accomplishments go hand in hand with Panama's system of free and compulsory education. We see new schools and playgrounds wherever we go, in rural areas as well as in cities. This splendid university campus tells the higher education story in terms of some 5,000 students and a curriculum that encompasses the entire range of advanced study. But Panama is particularly attracting tourists from all over the world. As for accommodations, where could you do better than this luxury hotel? It is but one of several that offer everything, from air-conditioned rooms and gourmet meals to tropical gardens and elaborate swimming pools. Panama is a real tourist delight, with pleasant weather almost all year round and with accommodations to suit every budget. Here it's fun in the sun at the crossroads of the world. We have ventured indoors for a look at Panama City after dark. This, of course, is a dice game in one of Panama's plush casinos. Here's another and perhaps more stylish form of gambling. You recognize roulette, of course, the so-called Wheel of Fortune. For those of us whose interest runs more to fresh air and the pleasures of outdoor sports, here it is, close at hand. Your choice of several golf courses with all the facilities you have at your private club at home. The Panamanian waters of the Pacific are ranked by many international sportsmen as one of the world's greatest areas of saltwater fishing. Fishing enthusiasts come here from all over the United States and South America. You go out to sea in diesel-powered fishing boats, and in a short time you are in the center of the world's finest deep-sea fishing grounds. There is a great variety of big fish here, but the star attractions are silver and black marlin, more abundant here than anywhere else in the world. Here's a sample catch of the big game fish taken out of these waters. We have gone a few miles out of Panama City to take in a sport popular the world over. We're at one of the most modern horse racing tracks in all of Latin America. Racing is held here weekends the year round and on certain holidays. The sport of kings, and the thrill is always the same. Whether at the Kentucky Derby in the United States, the Derby at Epsom Downs in England, the Grand Prix in Paris, or here in Panama. The drive for the finish line, for the winner's circle, for gold and for glory. One of Panama's finest resorts is the island of Toboga, less than an hour by boat from Panama City. This idyllic spot reminds one of the more fabled islands of the South Pacific. Here, where no automobiles are allowed, there are really excellent tourist hotels. The daily visit to the village post office is a ritual among visitors to this attractive island of quiet charm and pleasant climate. This is truly a vacationist paradise. And for those who are inclined toward aquatic activities, Toboga is indeed a real attraction, now being enjoyed by travelers from all over the world. We drive west by way of the famous Inter-American Highway into Chiriquí province. A short side trip takes us to the village of Oku, its atmosphere long to be remembered by visitors to Panama. We are fortunate to be here at the time of one of Panama's religious festivals, many of which take place during the months of January and February. This particular procession honors Saint Sebastian. Now we're traveling through Panama's farm and cattle country. There is an investment of more than $100 million in Panama's cattle industry, raising beef and dairy herds. Cowboys here are called vaqueros, and they do the same kind of ranch work as their counterparts in the United States. But notice one big difference in the breed of cattle, predominantly Brahman. Along our way, we visit another very pleasant settlement, the village of David, reminiscent of an old western town somewhere in Arizona. The center of activities for both resident and visitor is the Hotel Nacional, built in the style of the Spanish hacienda. This is indeed a picturesque setting in the heart of the Panamanian highlands, known as Little Switzerland. Here in the Chiriquí Highlands is a favorite vacation area for city dwellers and for visitors to Panama. Bananas are grown throughout Panama, and are listed as one of the country's chief export products. The plants are cut down to harvest the fruit since they bear only once. Coffee is a major Panamanian export on a very high quality level. There is much more to cultivating coffee than we ever dreamed. A long and involved harvest and processing procedure that starts in the fields and ends on the shipping docks. In the old days, not only the picking, but also the grading of the coffee beans was done by hand. Today, it is largely a mechanized operation. It is a carefully supervised routine that goes from the first picking to sorting, fermenting, thorough washing, selecting for size and quality. Then the long drying in the sun. After that will come more sorting and final sacking for shipment to Europe and the United States. This is our musical introduction to the dance. And here it is, a charming aspect of Panamanian folklore. This is El Torito, the dance of the bull. It's a mock bullfight with a brave paper bull and a lovely lady bullfighter. Note these magnificent native costumes. The montunos of the men and the polleras of the women. And now the pièce de résistance of all Panamanian dances, the tamborito. The music has a compelling and pulsating beat for onlookers and performers alike. The tamborito is Panama's national dance. Its origin goes back centuries to the primitive dance of the slaves brought here by the first Spaniards. Through the years, however, the original jungle gyrations have been modified to the graceful rhythms of today. We stand now in the Plaza del Francia in Panama City, named, of course, in honor of France. The Frenchman honored here is Ferdinand de Lesseps. He was the builder of the Suez Canal and the instigator of the Panama Canal. The administration building, flying both Panamanian and United States flags, is in the city of Balboa, located in the Canal Zone. This magnificent new bridge of the Americas unites the east and west sections of the isthmus. This is also a connecting line for the great Inter-American Highway. We are going on one of the world's outstanding tourist trips, the 50-mile voyage through the Panama Canal. In transit from the Pacific to the Atlantic, or vice versa, ships must be lifted to a higher level. Here at the Miraflores Locks is the first step of that upward climb on the Pacific side. The closing of the gates, the filling of the locks, everything is supervised from the control towers. The rise to the upper chamber is by a kind of water elevator that lifts the ship, or lowers it if bound in the other direction, from one level to the other. All ships, except the very smallest, are towed through the canal locks by these powerful electric locomotives known as mules. The movement is very slow. Every safeguard taken to ensure both locks and vessels. It's a high-precision operation, often as we see here, with a side-to-side clearance of only a few inches. Every foot of the way is under constant check from the control tower, from the mule operators, and the canal pilots. Although lock canals had been in use throughout the world for many years, there had never been anything like the size of the locks at Panama. Much of the mechanism had to be originally devised and invented to fit the magnitude of this two-lane ocean liner passage. Here at the two-step Miraflores Locks, a ship is given a total lift of 54 feet. This raises it to the level of Miraflores Lake, where the mule tow ends. The ship then proceeds across the lake under its own power, headed for the next lift at the Pedro Miguel Locks. Here, ships are raised a third time, in this case, 31 feet. The Pedro Miguel Locks provide the final lift, up to a total elevation of 85 feet, en route from the Pacific to the Atlantic terminal of the canal. This point is the end of the trip for the mules as the ship leaves the Pedro Miguel Locks. We are now traversing the Continental Divide. During construction, this was called Culebra Cut. It was later changed to Gaylord Cut, in honor of Colonel Gaylord, the man in charge of the construction work, a monumental feat of engineering memorialized by this bronze plaque. It was in this area that disastrous landslides occurred after the waterway was opened in 1914. But in half a century, work on the canal has never really stopped. The price of successful management is eternal vigilance, deepening, widening, and improving. At this point, we are beyond the halfway mark in what will be an approximately 8-hour journey from one ocean to the other. Leaving Gaylord Cut, entry is made into the Cotoon Lake sector of the canal. This is an artificial body of water with an area of more than 150 square miles. Ships usually cross the 23-mile-long lake under their own power. This is the approach to the Cotoon Locks. Having crossed the Continental Divide, the transport problem is now in reverse. That is, the lowering of ships to the Atlantic level. At Cotoon, there are 3 locks in one descending flight, with an overall length of a little more than a mile. The 85-foot drop to the Atlantic Ocean level begins here. The ship lowers as the water is drained from the lock. The first step down is nearly 30 feet. Number 2 lock has opened to receive our ship for the next step down. We move along into the next full water chamber. The lock gates close behind us, and we are again on a water elevator in a descent with so little discernible movement or disturbance that we are hardly aware of it. Then into the 3rd lock for the final step down. Again, the lock is drained, and before we know it, we're at sea level, Atlantic side. And again, the mechanical mules become part of the operation for the ship's tow through the narrow lock channel. Right now, the vessel is moving out of the Cotoon Locks. Cleared of the mules, it moves under its own power, en route to the city of Cologne at the Atlantic entrance to the canal. On one of the city's main promenades stands the bronze statue of Christopher Columbus. He reached Panama during his 4th and last voyage to what he thought was Asia, but was actually a new world to be known as America. Cologne is not a city rooted in ancient historical tradition. It was originally a railroad town, born to the sound of pickaxes, clearing a path across the isthmus for the railroad that began here in 1851, more than half a century before the canal. Today, Cologne is a thriving cosmopolitan city of major importance in the cross currents of international shipping. Cologne is especially known to tourists as one of the world's most exotic tax-free markets, stocked with European, Asian, and American goods. A shopper's paradise. On the San Blas Islands, off the Atlantic coastline, the sea is as much a part of life for these Kuna Indians as the land they have inhabited for centuries, before the arrival of white men from Europe. Women are the dominant power in this primitive society, the mother and daughter with greater importance than father and son, but altogether a charming and friendly people. The designs of their hand-woven costumes, known as molas, appliqued stitch by stitch, tell ancient tribal stories of life and love. Uninterested in modern progress, they prefer a way of life pre-Columbian in origin. But they are pleased to have visitors from the modern world, and on these islands we see customs, traditions, ways of work and play, little change from a form of Indian civilization that flourished here in prehistoric America. Being typical on-the-go tourists, we are Pacific-bound once more from Cologne, 48 miles overland by train to Panama City, in time to take part in what amounts to an all-out Panamanian festival of fun. This is Fiesta at its colorful best, complete with gorgeous and highly imaginative floats. A page of history in full sail. It's everybody's holiday time, some as active participants, others enjoying themselves as onlookers. The volatile Latin American bongo and guitar motif, a cargo of pretty girls and handsome men with a queen of song and dance, including a warm and gracious salute to us, spectators and admirers. It's a riotous melange of happy fiesta and street revelry that goes on for 4 days and nights, just before the start of the Lenten season in February. You may have seen the Carnival in Cannes on the French Riviera and the Mardi Gras in New Orleans, but they have nothing on the joyous cavortings of these Panamanians in this time of fun and frolic. Everybody's happy as the Congo line goes swirling down the street. We're delighted to be part of this pageantry and exhilarating folklore, expressed in uninhibited ecstasy. And on that note of gaiety, we are airborne, at the end of our wonderful holiday in the Republic of Panama, crossroads of the world.